Ideas shape the world. They give meaning, direction, and possibility. I'm Willie Pietersen, former CEO, Columbia professor, and author of Leadership: The Inside Story, an exploration of the principles that have shaped my leadership journey. Some ideas last for centuries. Others emerge and redefine how we lead. This is Ideas That Matter.
How does astrophysics then fit into your model of the business and the implementation, the three domains of leadership?
Well, it started as a reading hobby. Books on astrophysics in the past were full of equations and very technical language, and they're very hard to navigate. But I in my various readings and in my learning journal going back in time, I was reminded of the kinds of questions that as a kid I was trying to address and understand about our world and how it works and how counterintuitive it is. You know, this thing of the earth revolves around the sun rather than the other way around is counterintuitive. I remember my father taking me out into the lawn one day in the front yard and saying, let's go and watch this beautiful sunset. Mm-hmm. And I realized after learning about astronomy, the sun wasn't going anywhere. The sun wasn't setting. The earth was moving. Now we still use that terminology, and it's misleading to a kid. Mm-hmm. Sunrise, sunset. No, earth move, but that's not a nice word to use, right? Come and look at the lovely earth move. So it kind of like bewildered me as a kid, and I was asking the teacher these questions. I remember embarrassing myself a little bit with this thing of the earth is round. Well, you know, I'm walking around, and I'm not it doesn't feel as if I'm rounding any corners. And I remember raising my hand to my teacher when I said I was in South Africa as a kid. And I said, well, we're standing here in South Africa, and we're standing upright. But the people in Australia are standing upside down. How does that make them feel? She said, don't be silly. They feel that they're standing upright as well. And I was always intrigued by these counterintuitive things and the scale. When we're going to learn, how far away is the sun and how many stars are there in the universe. I was intrigued by the vastness of it all. And then books began to emerge that were much more amenable to non-experts, readers like me. I can understand words and ideas, but don't give me symbols and equations, etc., to understand things. And I began to look at this more earnestly. And I was absolutely stunned by just the raw facts of the vastness of the universe. There are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on any beach. All the stars in the universe have limited lives. Everything in the universe is transient. A hallmark of the universe is impermanence and renewal. Things tend to be circular or elliptical. And I began to think about this. The striking aspect of this is how insignificant our small solar system is in the scale of things, and how insignificant we are as humans. And we take ourselves so seriously. We think we're so important. But in the scale of things, we're just passing items, passing mechanisms, if you like, organisms in a fast-changing world. Now, this teaches us about how we should value what we have. You know, people who have gone up, civilian people who have gone up on these flights and looked down from the spaceship up there in space back down to this blue orb we call the Earth, have been moved emotionally like never before in their lives. To look down on this and to say, well, there's this precious Earth that we have, threatened by climate change, threatened by all kinds of conflicts between people. And yet we've got this precious opportunity to make the best of our impermanent existence. And it's made me think about the importance of being here and what we do with our short lives. And so my belief stemming from all of that is, yes, our lives in the scale of things, in the scale of the timelines of the universe, our lives are very, very short. But we have just enough time to make a difference. Now, Bill Clinton tells an interesting story along these lines when he was president. And he called his senior people in to tackle a particular problem. And, the meetings became dysfunctional, backstabbing and turf battles and people getting personal. And he'd say, stop, please. We're trying to solve a problem. It's important to the American people. Settle down and, solve the problem. And then in due course, it became dysfunctional again. And he thought of a solution, and it was a brilliant one. If you look this up in Google, you'll see his story, because it's a story he likes to tell, is that what he then did is active imagination. He called up NASA. He said, you folks have been to the moon, and you collected some moon rocks. Yes, we did. May I have one, please? Certainly. He said, but don't send me a 1-ton thing. I want to put it on the table in the center of the Oval Office. They sent him a moon rock. We put this thing in the center table. He didn't say anything to anybody. People came into the Oval Office for a meeting, and they looked at this moon rock, wondered what it was. But soon enough, they fell into dysfunction again. And this time round, he said, stop. Do you see that rock? It's 3.5 billion years old, and we're just passing through for one brief moment. Make a difference. And he says it worked every time. For me, that's kind of an indication of understanding our own impermanence, but to make what we can important to others and to the quality of all of our lives. That's just the way it's informed my way of thinking, and given me a kind of a fresh sense of mission, of what it means to be a father, what it means to be a grandfather. Yeah. What it means to be a citizen.
Yeah.
I'm not a great fan of civics. That's the way the government works. I'm a great fan of citizenship. That's how we work to make a great government. So it's given me those perspectives that I didn't sharply enough before.
It brings to mind in myself that what he was doing, using that piece of the moon, if you will, is creating a meaning that goes much beyond just winning this political battle now.
Yeah, exactly.
Making a difference. And I think that's part of the challenge of business today. How do we create work that's meaningful for people? And that's been a lot of philosophers have talked about that quite a bit. And
I agree. Now, there's a lovely formulation, if I haven't already mentioned it, by Ray Bradbury, the science fiction writer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he summed this all up in his lovely statement, where he said, we are born to witness the mysteries of the universe and understand who we are, where we fit in, and how to live our lives. And I think that sums it up for me in terms of what astrophysics can teach us. Hi, I'm Willie Pietersen. Leadership is not about wielding power. It's about authenticity and inspiring others to achieve a shared purpose. Excelling as a leader is a continuous journey of pursuing ideas that matter as the environment shifts and new challenges emerge. Thank you for watching. Please share your ideas by leaving your comments below. We learn best when we learn together. And if you've enjoyed this discussion, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you again.